prisoner, the courtroom was glowing with blue lights. Tall alien statues stood around the walls, watching like silent guards. Hundreds of aliens filled the seats, all staring at one person standing in the center. He was a human, chained, tired, but not afraid. The three alien sisters sat on the high throne, dressed in armor made of silver and crystal. They were tall, beautiful, and powerful. They laughed as they looked at the human. "Is this the great warrior from Earth?" The oldest sister said with a smile. "He looks like he couldn't even fight a lizard," said the second sister. The youngest one leaned forward, eyes full of mischief. "Maybe we should give him a mirror so he sees what a weak thing he is." The crowd laughed loudly, but the human didn't move. He didn't blink. He looked at the three sisters, and then he spoke. "I didn't come here to beg," he said, his voice calm. "I came to choose." The laughter stopped. The room became silent. Even the sisters looked confused. "Choose what?" the oldest asked. The human didn't answer. He just smiled a little in the upper chamber of the court. Behind a glass wall, the alien king was watching. He was old but wise. He had fought many wars and seen many lies. But something about this human felt different. This human had saved his life once, during a secret war in space, and now the king had made a decision. He turned to his advisor and said, "Bring the royal daughters to me after court." The advisor blinked, confused. "All three, Your Majesty." "Yes," the king said, "it is time." Meanwhile, in the courtroom, the trial continued. The alien judge read out the charges: entering royal space without permission, spying on royal fleets, disrespecting the royal daughters. The human said nothing. He just kept looking around, studying everything. He didn't look like a soldier, but his eyes were sharp. He had already counted the exits, the guards, the weapons. He wasn't just a prisoner, he was a planner. Flashbacks began in his mind. He remembered the peace mission. He had been sent to offer friendship, but someone had betrayed him. His ship was attacked. His crew taken, he alone survived, but instead of running, he let himself get captured. He wanted to see the enemy's heart, and now he was here, in their heart, the throne room, the sisters, the king, back in the royal chamber. The king faced his daughters. The sisters stood proud, confused, and angry. "Why did you summon us, Father?" the oldest asked. The king stood and looked them in the eye. "You mocked a human today," said. "Yes," the youngest said, laughing, "because he's nothing." "He is not nothing," the king said. "He is the man who saved my life." The sisters went silent. "You owe him more than you know," the king continued, "and you will repay that debt." "How?" the middle sister asked, frowning. The king looked at them with serious eyes. "You will marry him," he said. The words dropped like a bomb. The room exploded with shock. "What?" All three sisters shouted at once. "You cannot be serious. He's a human. This is a joke." But the king didn't smile. "It is my royal order," he said. "You will each go through the marriage trials with him. If he survives, you will become his wives." The sisters were furious. They stormed out, their eyes burning with anger. The human, still in the courtroom, was now being taken to a royal chamber. Guards followed him, but he walked calmly. He had heard the king's words through the chamber speakers. He knew what was coming. And he wasn't afraid that night, as he sat in his new cell, larger, cleaner. But still locked, he looked out at the alien stars. This is just the beginning. He whispered to himself. They laughed today, but they won't laugh forever, deep inside. The human was not angry, he was focused. This was his mission now, not just to survive, but to show them who humans really are. Asterisk, the royal chamber was filled. With silence, the king stood alone, facing the stars beyond the giant glass window. He watched the planet below his world, his people, his legacy, behind him. Heavy doors opened slowly. The three alien sisters walked in, their boots echoing on the silver floor. Each one looked angry, confused, proud. The oldest spoke first. Father, why are you doing this? The king didn't turn. He kept staring at the stars. Because he saved me, the king said. The middle sister crossed her arms. That doesn't mean you can throw us at him like property. The youngest laughed bitterly. He's a human, father. They're weak, emotional, loud. The king turned around slowly, his eyes sharp and tired. You see their weakness, but not their strength, he said. That human saved me in the Battle of Velar when my guards abandoned me. He didn't run, he stayed and fought, and he bled for me. The sisters went quiet and reward him. The oldest said, give him land, ships, gold, not us. The king walked toward them. I don't want you to be gifts, he said. I want you to learn you think you are perfect because your DNA was designed. You think you are strong because no one has ever challenged you. But that human, the king paused. He is not here to be beneath you. He might be here to be your equal. The youngest laughed again. Equal. That word doesn't exist in our history. It should, the king replied, and it starts now. The room went cold. You will begin the marriage trials tomorrow, the king ordered. If the human passes, we'll accept the result. The sisters stormed out, fury in their steps. But deep down, something had shifted. Meanwhile, the human sat in a garden prison. It was beautiful trees from alien planets, blue grass, and glowing birds. But it was still a cage. He sat by a small fountain, remembering Earth, remembering war, remembering how he got here. A female alien entered silently. She was not a guard, not a royal. She was a servant, but her eyes were kind. You are the one. The king chose, she said softly. He looked at her, curious. And what do you think about that? She smiled. I think our people need someone to challenge us. And maybe that someone is you. He didn't respond. But for the first time since arriving, he felt something small and warm hope. Later that evening, in the warrior temple, the sisters trained. Their weapons glowed as they moved like shadows and fire. Each one was a fighter, a champion. But none of them smiled. They were not angry at their father anymore. They were angry at the human. We will crush him in the trials, the middle sister said. He won't last a single test. He'll quit before. The second day, the youngest added. The oldest remained silent. But she was thinking something different. She remembered the human's eyes, not scared. Not broken, they were calm to calm the next morning. The royal arena lit up with golden light. Crowds filled the seats, cheering, whispering, waiting. Everyone had heard the news. A human would enter the sacred marriage trials. No outsider had ever done this before. The human walked into the arena, dressed in simple armor. No helmet, no weapons, just him and his mind. A voice echoed from above. Let the trials of unity begin. The crowd roared, but the human didn't even flinch. He looked up at the three alien sisters standing on a platform. They looked down at him with fire in their eyes. This was not just a test. It was war of pride, of beliefs, of two worlds colliding, and the human was ready. One of the sisters stepped forward and spoke through a translator. This is the first trial. Mindstorm. You will enter the dream core. Where your fears and memories become real, escape it and move forward, fail, doubt, and stay trapped forever without hesitation. The human nodded. I'm ready. He walked too. The dream gate, it opened with a pulse of light, and as he stepped in, the gate closed behind him. Inside, darkness fell, but in the darkness came a voice. It's his own voice. Do you really believe they can respect you? Do you really think you belong? The human took a deep breath. He faced his own doubts, his past, his failures. And still, he walked forward, outside the dream chamber. The sisters waited. 1 hour passed, then 2. No one had ever lasted this long. Suddenly the gate opened, and the human stepped out, sweating, shaking, but alive. The crowd gasped. The sisters stared. The oldest whispered to herself, he didn't fight the storm. He walked through it. The trials had just begun, but so had the change. The arena was quiet. Not a single voice dared to speak. The human had just survived the mindstorm, a trial that had broken warriors stronger than steel, but he had walked through it without violence. Without fear, the three alien sisters watched. Him from their royal platform, for the first time, their laughter was gone. The youngest one narrowed her eyes. Maybe we underestimated him, she whispered. The oldest didn't reply. She was watching him too carefully, too Too silently, the king sat on his throne. Proud but unreadable, he raised his hand and the announcer stepped forward. The second trial begins now. The voice echoed, "Trial of Bond." A door opened on the side of the arena. Out came a large beast, half machine, half nightmare. Its body was made from dark metal and liquid muscle. It had no eyes, just sensors. It moved silently, but it hunted fear. The human stood in the middle of the arena with no weapon, just as he had chosen, across from him. The youngest alien sister stepped forward. This time, she would enter the trial with him. This was the rule of Unity trials. ST's test must involve a sister. They were not only judging him, they were being judged too. The trial began. The beast charged forward, its roar cutting the air like a blade. The human grabbed the sister's arm and pulled her aside, saving her from the strike. "Don't touch me," she hissed. "You're going to die anyway." But he didn't let go. "We survive together, or not at all," he said. She froze, confused for a second. No one had ever said that to her before. They ran together. Hiding behind a broken stone structure, the beast searched, its sensors scanning heat, heartbeats, fear. The sister activated a plasma blade. "We kill it," she said. The human shook his head. "No, we calm it." "What?" "It doesn't want to kill," he said. "It's programmed to destroy fear." "Then stop fearing," she laughed. "You don't know what this creature is." "I don't need to," he replied. "I know what fear is." He walked out from behind the rock. Slow and steady, the beast turned toward him, its sensors flashing red. The sister's eyes widened. He was doing exactly what would get him killed, but the human didn't run. He raised both hands. Showing peace, he closed his eyes, slowed his breathing. He whispered something soft, ancient, maybe a prayer, maybe a memory. The beast stopped. For the first time, it didn't attack. Its sensors turned yellow, then green. It walked past him.
Oh.
Then laid down like a dog protecting its pack. The entire arena gasped. The king stood slowly. Even the guards exchanged looks of disbelief. The sister stepped forward. "How? ... How did you do that?" "I told the truth," the human said. "I had no fear." She looked at him differently now, not with hate, but with something she didn't recognize: respect, maybe even curiosity. The trial ended. The beast was led away peacefully. The human had passed again. But more than that, he had changed something. Not just in the eyes of the crowd, but in the heart of a sister who had once laughed at him. That night, she visited him in the royal guest chamber. Her armor was off, replaced by a simple robe. She brought food daily and fruits and steamed crystals that glowed. "You're strange," she said. Sitting across from him, "You don't act like any warrior I've met." "I'm not here to impress you," he replied. "I'm here to understand you." She studied him. "And if we don't want to be understood, then you fear being known," he said. "And that's where your real weakness lives." She didn't respond for a moment, then she smiled. Small but real. "You think you're clever," she said. He smiled back. "I think I'm human," before she left. She turned at the door. "For what it's worth," she said softly, "I'm glad you didn't die today." He nodded. Tomorrow's another chance, but outside the palace, not everyone was pleased. In the shadows of the Sky Tower, a group of cloaked figures met. "He's passing the trials," one of them hissed. "He's winning the people if he marries the sisters. He becomes untouchable." A taller figure stepped forward, his voice like stone. "Then we kill him before the final trial." The night sky above the alien capital was full of stars. But beneath those stars, danger was moving quietly, in a hidden chamber deep inside the royal tower. 6 figures stood around a glowing table. Each wore a mask made of black metal, hiding their true faces. "The people are starting to like him," one whispered. "They cheer for a human." Another spat. "He is not just passing trials," the leader growled. "He is changing hearts." There was silence. Then the leader continued. "We have kept power through fear and pride. If this human becomes king, those tools vanish. We must end him before the final bond." Meanwhile, the human stood in the royal garden. Again, the place that once felt like a cage now felt calm. He looked up at the stars, But he wasn't dreaming. He was thinking, planning, watching. He had seen the way some guards looked at him too long, too cold. He had seen shadows that didn't belong. And he knew someone wanted him gone. The oldest sister approached him without sound. She walked like a warrior, not a princess. "You're not sleeping." She said. "Neither are you," he replied. She sat beside him, her armor shining under moonlight. "You've passed 2 trials," she said. "The next is more personal." "I'm ready," he said. "No," she said. "You're not." She looked into his eyes. "The next trial is not physical, it's emotional. You'll have to enter our minds, our real thoughts, memories, fears." He stayed quiet for a moment, then nodded. "Then show me who you really are," said. "I'm not afraid." She stared at him, and for the first time, her voice softened. "You should be." The next morning, the arena was dark. Only one light glowed in the Centaurus silver circle on the floor. The trial of memory was about to begin. The human and the oldest sister stood side by side. A voice echoed across the arena. "In this trial, the 2 minds must link. They will see each other's truth. They will survive only if trust is real." The human stepped forward, so did she. Their hands touched the silver floor. Light shot through their bodies. Their minds began to merge. Suddenly, the human was no longer in the arena. He stood in a strange red sky. Mountains floated in the air. Rivers moved upward. This was not his memory. It was hers. He saw her as a child, trained with no love, every emotion punished, every mistake met with pain. She had been made, not born, built to serve the throne, never to feel. Then she saw his memories, his mother dying in a hospital, his father lost in war, lonely years on earth. Learning to lead through pain, not power, they stood face to face in the memory storm. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "No one has ever seen this?" she whispered. "No one ever wanted to," he replied. Their hands reached out and touched. The dream collapsed. The trial ended. They both fell back onto the arena floor, breathing hard, but they were changed. Not enemies, not strangers, something else. But danger was near. That same night, a royal guard entered the human's chamber. But he wasn't there, only a message carved into the table. "I know." Elsewhere in the palace, a royal advisor visited the king, whispered, "There is a plot. They plan to kill the human before the final trial." The king clenched. "His fists, who?" "Someone close," the advisor said. "Very close." In the hallway, the 3 sisters met. They looked at each other, tense. "We can't ignore this anymore," the middle sister said. "Ending every trial, and someone wants him dead." "We were supposed to break him," the youngest whispered. "Now we're protecting him." The oldest sister stepped forward. "No more games," she said. "If someone tries to touch him again, they answer to us." That night, a shadow entered the garden again, but this time, the human was waiting. He moved silently, grabbed the attacker from behind, pulled the mask off, and froze. It was a royal guard. But more than that, he was marked with a secret tattoo. The same symbol carved on the blade used to kill the last peace ambassador. The human knew now. Oh, this wasn't just jealousy or politics. This was war. A soft wind passed through the palace corridors. But it carried more than air, it carried tension. The failed assassination had changed everything. The human was no longer just a guest or a trial participant. He was a target, yet he wasn't hiding. He walked through the palace gardens calmly. The guards watched him, but now they also protected him, because the king had declared, until the final trial, the human is under royal protection. Inside the crystal tower, the 3 sisters stood in silence. They had been summoned by their father not for orders, but for truth. The king placed a glowing cube in front of them. "This," he said, "contains the memories you were never allowed to see." The sisters exchanged confused glances. "What memories?" the middle sister asked. The king looked at his daughters with sad eyes. "The ones erased when you were created." He activated the cube, and light poured out like a storm of stars. Images, voices, broken files, and hidden files danced around them, and slowly the truth began to speak. Hundreds of years ago, the royal family could no longer produce natural children. A genetic project began. The perfect daughters were made strong, fast, beautiful, intelligent, but something was removed. From them, something they never knew was missing: emotion, imperfection, the ability to truly feel love, empathy, pain. Joy not as code, but as chaos. They built us, the youngest whispered, like machines. The oldest added, "No," the king corrected. "They built you like queens." But they forgot to make you human. The human had entered the chamber silently halfway through the memory. The king let him stay. He was, after all, part of the reason this truth was finally being told. The middle sister turned to the human. "You knew something, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "I didn't know the full truth," he said, "but I could feel it. Every time you laughed at me, every time you called humans weak, it felt like you were trying to hide something." The room fell quiet. The king stood and walked toward the window. "Emotion is not weakness," he said. "It is the engine of strength. That's what your mother believed." The sisters looked up. "Our mother?" The king smiled sadly. "She was not made," he said. "She was born like you're human." Oh. She died fighting to stop this program. Tears did not fall from the sisters' eyes. They couldn't. Their bodies had been engineered to control all such responses, but inside, something had cracked. A silence deeper than space had entered their minds that evening. The human and the oldest sister walked through the empty training grounds. She didn't wear armor this time. He didn't wear anything but a soft tunic. They walked like two people with no need to pretend anymore. "I'm not angry at you," she said. "I'm angry at the world that made me like this." He looked at her quietly. "You can still change, no?" she said. "I don't know how," he smiled. "Then let me show you." She looked at him, uncertain. He reached out and touched her hand. Gently, she didn't pull away. It was the first time anyone had touched her without command or fear. Just kindness, and it shook her to her core. "You're strange," she said. Voice barely above a whisper. "You make me feel like I'm unfinished." "You're not unfinished," he said. "You're just unlocking that night." The human received a gift, a small music sphere, sent anonymously. He played it. Soft melodies filled the room. Not alien, not human, just beautiful. He closed his eyes and let it play across the palace. The sisters listened to, each one in silence. Something inside them began to stir. Something the scientists had tried to remove was slowly returning, but far below the palace, in the prison cells, another truth awakened. One of the royal guards who tried to kill the human had been captured. Under questioning, he broke. "I serve the order of purity," he confessed. "They want no bond between alien blood and human soul." The king heard this and stood silently. "I thought they were gone," he said. "They never left," the advisor warned. "They just waited." The human now had more than trials to survive. He had become a symbol, a bridge between bloodlines, and some would burn that bridge before it could stand. As the final trial approached, the palace changed. Guards doubled, doors locked, whispers followed every step. But the human did not slow down. He had come this far not to win, but to heal, to connect, to change what no weapon ever could. The palace was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the silence before a storm. The final trial had arrived, and the whole city waited, holding its breath. The human stood before the temple of merging, a massive tower of glass and memory. Inside it lived a sacred pool called the core light. No weapon, no armor, no lies could pass through it. Only truth, only soul. The three alien sisters waited inside, their expressions unreadable, but inside, they felt something new: uncertainty, and something even more dangerous: hope. The announcer's voice echoed across the skies. "Trial 7, he called, "the final bond. No warrior may pass without showing their soul. No royal may accept without revealing their scars." Inside the chamber, the water shimmered like liquid starlight. The human stepped into the pool, so did the sisters, one by one. The core light rose around them, glowing softly. Then it pulled them in. Suddenly time stopped. They were no longer in the temple. They stood inside a world made from thought and memory. A shared dream space, alive, shifting, unstable. Here. Nothing could be hidden, no masks, no pride, no programming. The human stood at the center. The sisters circled him, their forms flickering between who they were and who they could have been. One moment, they were warriors, proud and cold. The next, they were children, lost and lonely. Where are we? The youngest sister asked, her voice echoing strangely. Inside the place where truth lives, the human replied, and where lies die. The oldest sister looked at her own hands. She saw not fingers but memories, pain, silence, training. Rooms, empty birthdays, endless orders, all the things she never let herself feel. Now they screamed inside her. I hate this, she whispered. It's not meant to feel good, the human said. It's meant to feel real, one by one. The sisters faced visions of their past. Moments of cruelty, perfection, pressure, and deep inside all of them, something cracked. Not weakness, freedom. The middle sister fell to her knees. I don't know who I am without orders, the youngest cried out. I don't know what I love, because I was never allowed to love anything. The human walked to them. You were made perfect, he said, but perfection is a cage. You deserve to be flawed, you deserve to feel, and then he showed them his own truth. Yes. His childhood on earth, the fear of war, the ache of loneliness, the quiet bravery of holding on when no one believed in him, and his dream not to fight, not to conquer, but to connect. I'm not here to make you human, he said. I'm here to show you it's okay to be one. The core light pulsed. The dream began to dissolve. The trial was complete, not through strength, but through understanding. They awoke in the temple. Soaked in light, the human opened his eyes first. The sisters followed, and this time, their eyes were different, not colder, not stronger, softer, real. But before the crowd could celebrate, an explosion shook the palace. Smoke poured through the sky doors. Screams echoed across the city. They've come, a guard shouted. The purity order is attacking. The king stood on his balcony. Watching fire rise in the distance, he turned to his advisors. Protect the people, he said. Get the human to safety. But the human refused to run. He stepped onto the balcony. Beside the king, let me help, he said. They're not afraid of your army. They're afraid of me. Down in the city, masked soldiers marched toward the palace. They carried advanced weapons and hate in their hearts. But above them, on the royal tower, stood the human and the three sisters beside him, not as enemies, not as strangers, but united today. The human shouted, his voice amplified by the tower's speakers. I don't fight you with weapons. I fight you with what you fear the most, connection. The people of the capital watched from rooftops. And one by one they stood, alien citizens, guards, workers, even palace staff. They stood behind the human. The purity order paused. They were ready for war, but not for unity. The king looked at his daughters, then at the human. I made a decision long ago, he said, but today I understand why it mattered. He turned to the city and raised both hands. From this day forward, he declared, this man is no longer a guest. He is no longer a trial. He is our bridge, and he is my equal. The sky began to clear, the fire faded, and somewhere, high above, the stars pulsed brighter, as if the galaxy itself had begun to change. The battlefield never came. The war was won without a single sword being raised. Because for the first time in alien history, the people saw something stronger than weapons. They saw someone who did not look like them, did not speak like them, did not come from their stars, and yet they trusted him. The human stood on the edge of the royal tower, his face tired but calm beside him. The three sisters stood, once proud and cruel, now still proud, but no longer hollow. The oldest sister turned to him quietly. What happens now? He looked at the city below, and then to the sky. That depends, he said. Are you ready for something new? Later that day, the royal court gathered for the final ceremony. Crowds filled every level of the palace. Even those who once mocked the human now stood in silence. Waiting, the king entered slowly, dressed not in armor, but in white robes. He looked older than ever, but also at peace. He raised his voice so all could hear today. I give up the throne. A wave of gasps rolled through the crowd. The king continued, "My time is over. My daughters are ready. And this human, the one we mocked, feared, and tested, has passed trials no alien ever could. He did not win with fists, he won with heart. He did not rule with power, he ruled with patience." He turned to the human and asked, "Do you accept the crown not as a ruler, but as a bridge?" The human didn't answer right away. He looked at the crowd, at the sisters, at the world that had once called him lesser. Then he said, "I didn't come here to wear a crown. I came here to understand. But if wearing that crown means more people will be heard, helped, and healed, then yes, I accept." The crown was unlike anything on earth. It floated above his head, made of pure light. It didn't weigh him down. It lifted him up. The people cheered not for a king, but for change. That night, the city held its first unity festival. Humans and aliens danced in the same streets. 1,000 years of fear melted into songs and lights. The air smelled of roasted spice fruit and wind bread. Children laughed together in 3 different languages. No one corrected them. The youngest sister walked through the crowd, smiling at a little human girl who offered her a flower. She bent down, accepted it, and for the first time in her life, said thank you without being taught how. The middle sister stood beside a group of human engineers. They were designing ships not for war, but for travel. She offered one of her own old battle designs. "Maybe," she said, "you can use this for peace instead." The oldest sister returned to the temple where her memories lived. She stood in silence, then deleted the last command in her genetic code, the one that said she must always obey, and for the first time, she felt free in the palace garden. The human sat alone under the blue-leafed tree. The stars above him had changed. Not their shape, but their meaning. The king joined him, slowly, carefully. "You did what no one else could," the old man said. "You taught them to feel again." "Didn't teach," the human replied. "I just reminded," the king nodded. "Do you miss Earth?" "Every day," the human said, "but I think Earth would be proud of what we did here." The king stood. "Then you've already succeeded as king, because real kings don't rule. They guide." The next morning a new ship left. The alien planet, it carried a message. A new alliance. Not just for humans. Not just for aliens, but for anyone who believed in second chances. Across the stars, other civilizations began to notice. They had seen the violence of Earth, but now they were seeing something else. Something more dangerous. Hope. Back in the city, a statue was being built. Not of the human alone, but of him and the 3 sisters standing together, each one different, each one equal. The plaque below read, "Here stood one human, who changed a world by refusing to become like it, and instead helped it become better." And so the human who had once stood in chains, who had been mocked, tested, and nearly killed, became a symbol not of power, but of what happens when you choose connection over control. And across the galaxy, new legends began. With 3 alien sisters and the human they once laughed at,